Okay, here we are in another podcast with a very silly bass player, Chris Dale, who just recently wrote this book. It's called Inside the Skunkworks Machine, in which he tells quite a bit of interesting stories about his time in a band with Bruce Dickinson. So Chris, welcome to the podcast. So let's start first. There's a bit of confusion. Is Skunkworks, obviously it is the name of the album, but is it just the album? Was the band name Skunkworks? There's certain theories and people write how legally the production company did not want to release the album under Skunkworks.
Oh, okay, we're starting with the hard questions, I see. Yeah, this is the way we're going to play it.
I mean...
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea was... When I first joined the band with Alex Elena and Alex Dixon and Bruce Dickinson, it was the Bruce Dickinson band. Mm-hmm. But Bruce thought that didn't really sound very cool, so he wanted to have a band name, and he chose Skunkworks to be a band name. But it really was just Bruce's idea, and people weren't that keen on it. You know, I think it was a difficult one to market. I think from the point of view of a record company or promoters and stuff, you know, if you've got a poster on the wall of this club and it says Skunkworks and it's got a picture of a lake on it, you're not going to sell a lot of tickets. If you have a picture of Bruce Dickinson and it says Bruce Dickinson X Iron Maiden, you're going to start selling more tickets. And I think, you know, I don't think it was the case that production or management or record company said, no, you can't use a name. I think it's just that people generally preferred to market that way. It's hard to sell tickets for gigs at the best of times. It's hard to sell records. And doing it without any connection to the past, I think it was a nice idea, but it wasn't going to work that way, you know.
So how did you end up being in the band?
Well, it's quite funny. It was literally, there was a Kerrang interview with Bruce, and he said he's recorded a new album. It was Balls to Picasso at the time. And in the Kerrang interview, he said he's already got a guitarist, Alex Dixon, and he was looking for a bass player and a drummer. And he said it quite clearly in a Kerrang interview. So I got in touch with the management company, sent traditional things, sent the cassette and the photo and a little CV write-up into the management, got called in for a meeting. And it turned out they hadn't had very many people apply at all. And it's a strange one. And I think, you know, viewers out there, you know, if you're a musician, if you hear of a band splitting up, apply straight away, because really that singer is going to have a solo project, you know, and the rest of the band are going to need a singer. So I think it takes a little bit of initiative, and I think Bruce liked that as well. He likes people with initiative. He doesn't want musicians that are just going to sit back by themselves. You know, he likes creative people with ideas. And so yeah, we went in, learned his songs, played them with him, jammed it out with him. It was quite funny, of course, because, you know, he's super famous. And there we are in a little room with him playing these songs, and I'm thinking, like, you're used to Steve Harris playing bass for you, and you've got me doing it now, and little me, is that going to be okay for you?
Big shoes to fill in.
But apparently it was okay. But yeah, a bit of pressure, a little bit of pressure.
But you did well. He loved your audition.
Yeah.
And you learned the whole album, not just the 4 songs.
Yeah, he asked us to learn 4 songs.
So there's another message to all the...
Absolutely, you know, learn as much as you can. We even tried learning a couple of Deep Purple songs because we knew he was a Deep Purple fan, and we thought if we just throw in Black Knight or something, he's going to like it, you know. I'm a Kiss fan. If you want to audition for my band, learn Kiss songs. So yeah, I mean, come as prepared as you can for these things, you know, it makes sense, you know. Things like that, you only get one chance to make a first impression, and you want it to be quite good. He doesn't want someone turning up and saying, oh, you told me to learn 4 songs, so I learned 3. Is that okay? No, just come on, guys. Pull your finger out, do it properly.
So you were basically accepted pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
He liked it because what it says in the book is he wanted to audition more people unless he wasn't...
Yeah.
If he wasn't happy with you, but obviously...
They didn't audition anyone else, as far as I know. Or if they did, they went worse than us. Yeah, we did 2 auditions. We did one, and then a couple of weeks later, we got called back for another one. Because, you know, I think one of the things as well about auditions, and this is probably the same in, you know, many situations, job interviews or something, is they're not just wanting someone who can do the job, but he's kind of auditioning a new best friend. Because he knows he's going to have to spend 2 years on the road with these guys.
Every single day.
Yeah, and, you know, if you turn up and you can play the songs, but you're a bit of an arsehole, he's going to think, you know what, I don't want to share.
It's not gonna work.
I don't want to share a tour bus with this guy too long, you know. So yeah, there's another bit of advice: try not to be an arsehole.
We started out very wise. Very
You've
wise.
learned so much already.
Huh? Stop it. Cut. End. The end. Let's wrap it. So the first thing you did was Balls to Picasso tour.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of new songs to rehearse. How did that tour go?
Yeah, that was. I mean, it was great fun. We started in the States. I'd never been to the States before. And, you know, there was no warm-up gigs. We did a load of rehearsals, obviously, and we got all the songs tight, and then we're just on a plane, out to America, playing in front of thousands of people.
Was it a bit overwhelming?
No, it was just great fun. I mean, because, to be honest, you know, as a musician, that's all we dreamed of is, you know, playing big audiences, doing an American tour, stuff like that. And, of course, it was great fun, and Bruce was fun to be around, and he made it fun for all of us. He was very relaxed, especially at first, you know. He was totally chilled about everything. And we just had a great fun. We went around the US, we went around Europe, did the UK. Then we did the live album, then we did South America, and later on we did Japan. And for us, this was like, you know, I'd been around Europe before with bands, but never been to Brazil, Argentina, Japan. It was a wonderful experience, you know. And that's one of the things when I was writing this book, a couple of people said to me, oh, are you bitching about your time with him? Are you complaining about stuff? And to be honest, no. We just had great fun. I've got no complaints at all, really. You know, it was a great experience. And of course, in the middle of all that, we did a gig in Sarajevo.
Sure. Yeah, we can get back to that a little later. But I just want to ask you, how did you come up with the idea of writing this book? There was a certain Facebook group.
Yeah, that was brilliant. It was just before lockdown. I started a Facebook group called Skunkworks. And really, I wanted to like share some of the photos that we had, because we took cameras on tour and we took loads of photos and some really funny stuff, and share a couple of funny stories. And I also wanted to get back in touch with some of the fans, because we were on tour and, you know, there's a lot of people follow every gig and you'd be hanging out with them. And so I knew loads of these people, and then I'd lost touch with them over the years. And I thought this was a great way to get back in touch. That was the idea of the group. And then people started asking more in-depth questions. And I thought, you know, everyone knew roughly what happened in that band. But of course, they didn't know the details. And some people start coming in with really detailed stuff like, how did you mic up that drum kit? Really? Oh, okay, you want to know that much, right? Yeah. How did the B-sides happen, you know, Italian drum, or how did the Sarajevo thing happen? You know, which we'll come to later. But a lot of questions coming in, and I was answering them. I'm quite happy. There's no secrets going on.
Had nothing to do during the COVID times.
And that was it. And we were in lockdown, and so many people were at home online. And actually, it was really helping me, because I was, you know, we were all getting a little bit lonely, and I've got this little community going on, and it helped a lot of the other guys out there as well. I think, you know, they were saying, this is great to be able to have something to do now we're all locked home for a while. But gradually, the book was kind of writing itself, because all these questions and answers, I was like, you know what? We've got all these photos, we've got all these...
questions and answers.
Yeah, let's fill it out and do the whole story. Which is why, you know, a bit of a plug, it's a massive, thick book. It's like, and there's photos all over it, you know. There's Bruce setting light to his leg and stuff. You know, we were just silly guys on tour. And so that's what I wanted to put together. And, you know, it's ended up the book's a little bit expensive because... it's a big book. What do you want?
And I even asked him if he has a hardback copy.
Well, there are hardback copies. I just didn't bring one over because
dragged it. Yeah.
Carrying stuff around airports, you know.
I know.
Yeah. So and you know, obviously, it's on Amazon. If anybody wants to look it up, that's where you go.
So Bruce's Skunkworks album is quite a bit different than the rest of his previous music. So why does a heavy metal singer all of a sudden wants to make an alternative? So even grunge album.
Well, I think you said two key words there: different and alternative, and that's literally the outline we were given, because Alex Dixon, the guitarist, wrote the music on the record, and we were just told we want something different. We want something that Bruce hasn't done before. Because it would have been easy to kind of write a kind of Iron Maiden clone type record, and that's not why he left Maiden. He wanted to experiment, try something, you know. You only get one chance at this thing. Let's try something different. So I wouldn't say it was grunge so much. You know, there's bits of progressive in there. There's kind of really some quiet songs, some quite heavy, hard-hitting stuff. And that's what we wanted to do, is make something literally different. So I think the only things we were told is, like, avoid harmony guitar parts.
But there's only one guitar, anyways.
Yeah. Don't do galloping bass. Don't do, you know, drum fills going bili, 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 bili. It was literally just like, avoid everything that Iron Maiden does, and then just do what you want. And so that's what we did. And we used Jack Endino, who produced, you know, the first Nirvana album, and he'd done a bunch of Seattle recordings. So I think that's why people gave it that kind of grunge tag. And it was around the grunge era. But it wasn't like we were, you know, trying to sound like Nirvana. Or actually, I think even if you look at the grunge Seattle thing, Soundgarden don't sound like Nirvana. Alice in Chains don't sound like Pearl Jam. I think the commonality with those bands is they're from Seattle, and they weren't glam metal. And they weren't.
So you would say there isn't a common denominator?
I don't think there is, you know.
Maybe. You know, maybe just the Seattle thing.
Yeah, and it was a great scene at the time, and it obviously took over the world. But it wasn't like we were saying, "Oh yeah, let's try and sound like Pearl Jam." There was none of that involved. It was just, don't sound like Maiden.
So how did the writing process go? Did Alex Dixon, the guitar player, did he come up with all the music first, or did Bruce write lyrics and then you went to the studio? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
It was all Alex Dixon.
He did all the music.
Yeah, he's a very prolific writer, to the point where he's annoyingly prolific. You can't stop him writing. Once he starts, and he tends to write in albums rather than songs. So he writes like 12 songs as a little project for fun.
Which doesn't exist anymore?
Well, he does this, you know, and he's done it with loads of times. Loads of stuff he hasn't released. And for this stuff with Bruce, he was literally like, he demos and stuff at home, you know, back in the day it was on cassette and stuff. So he's just giving Bruce a cassette of like, oh, here's 6 songs I came up with. And Bruce is like, yeah, oh, brilliant, yeah, great. Here's another 6. Oh, okay, that's handy, yeah. Here's another 6. Bruce is like, oh, okay, these are great too, but we've got 18 songs now. Yeah, here's another 6. Yeah, we've got 25 songs. Look, can you stop writing, please?
It's enough. It's enough.
It was really like, you know, and it was such a lucky position to be in with a talented guy like that in the band. Because so many bands are struggling to write 10 songs for that album and make them any good.
There's a lot of fillers and...
Yeah, and there we were with just stuff to choose from, which is why there's B-sides and all sorts going on, you know? It was a really creative time, and as musicians, the three of us especially, me, Alex Elena, and Alex Dixon, we were just mates all the time and jamming all the time, playing together, working on these songs, working on other songs, working on covers, just constantly playing. We were like that young, passionate, you know, thing. And Bruce had just come in and hear what was going on, and he loved it. He loved the creativity and the vibe of the whole thing. And then from there, he was like coming out with lyrical ideas. Then we had the luxury of rehearsing the songs for ages. So again, a lot of bands these days don't have that, and they can't afford to, and they're recording on their laptops and stuff, and they don't have a producer, and the end result is not a great product. But what we were able to do, we had the luxury of, you know, money and time, and we rehearsed these songs like over and over for weeks and weeks, getting little bits tighter, and that bit there doesn't quite work, let's try this. And Bruce would rewrite the lyrics until they really came together. So when we went into the studio, we were fully prepared.
Tight. Yeah. And then you played before with Alex, Elena, so you were already in sync.
Yeah, but literally that time, you know, for the first tour, we had 4 weeks rehearsal, and it was every day blocked out.
For Balls to Picasso?
Yeah, for the Balls to Picasso tour. And we kind of did that for most things, you know, 4 weeks, 6 weeks rehearsal and stuff like that. It was just a luxury, because you could really get sounding good. And I think when you listen to bands, you know, metal bands in the 80s and stuff, they're sounding really tight and really good. They've got no backing track. And they're doing that by actually hard work and constant rehearsal. And I think, unfortunately, these days, not many people can afford to do that. It's a bit of a luxury, you know?
Yeah, probably. Again, another advice. Rehearse.
If you can get your own rehearsal place and just be jamming all the time, you know, it really helps.
It must have been very relieving for Bruce after Maiden playing his solo work. Because I've seen him with Alex Dixon. There's a bunch of videos that I'm sure you're aware of on YouTube. Him playing in a limo, playing in a bar, busking on streets, you know. can't really do that with Maiden, I would say.
No, that was the thing, I think, that, Maiden do what Maiden do, and they do it extremely well, and it's very successful, and everyone loves it. But it is within a confined, like, this is the genre we're singing about, this is the music we're doing. And Skunkworks was entirely different. We can musically experiment anywhere. We've got no preconceptions to go along with. And, just the fun and vibe and all that. And I think he'd missed that a bit with Maiden, because I think Maiden kind of became so big, the production, the inflatable eddies and stuff like that. They have to do that. That's part of a Maiden show. And it's an amazing thing to see, but it means that you can't play in a small club.
Yes.
And you can't just pack your gear in the back of a plane. And obviously Bruce likes planes. So we could literally pack a couple of guitars and a drum kit in the back of an aeroplane, fly off, do a festival somewhere and fly back with a small crew. And with Maiden, that would obviously be a big entourage, several truckloads going in, and it was a very different thing for that reason,
I would kill to see Maiden in a place like this, a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
It will probably never happen.
Maybe not again. I've seen them in some pretty small places. I saw Charlotte and the Harlots play. They were called Charlotte and the Harlots.
Yeah. It was a fake name always. Yeah.
On the Seventh Son tour. That was in a small college in East London. That was pretty small. I also saw them do, I think, was it Brave New World or something? They played Shepherd's Bush Empire, which is a small theatre. It's like 1,500 or something like that. Again, they cut it down for... Yeah. But the thing is, with Maiden, they've got all these props, and they've got all these backdrops and monsters and stuff. But actually, at the root of it, they're an amazing band.
That's it.
And so, like you say, to see them in a small club, they absolutely shred the place. They totally rock.
I called my friend in Split, and look for weird names and weird bands performing somewhere in Split. Maybe it's them. And if you see a weird name, hit me up. I'm coming. I'm coming.
If something sounds like a joke.
Yeah, that's probably them. That's probably them.
Yeah. But I don't think they did a warm-up this time.
I don't think so.
But that's what I mean. That's what I mean, because it is so big, and they'll be in production rehearsals with lighting and tons of crews, which makes the show big and amazing. But with the Skunkworks thing, it was the antithesis of that. We're just going to go out and do small gigs, partly because we don't have the massive Maiden following, but partly for the fun of it. We can literally just pack the stuff in a plane and go, or pack it in a small van, and we're off.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was going to airplanes with Bruce Dickinson, afraid of flying.
Yeah.
How good of a pilot he was back then? He was doing his license back then, was he?
I mean, he'd got his,
upgrading it.
yeah,
so to say.
he'd got his basic pilot's license, which is something that everyone now knows. Bruce Dickinson, Flight 666, he's a pilot.
But back then, did you know
that
he was a pilot?
I mean, I knew he was the singer of Iron Maiden. I knew he did fencing. I don't think I knew he was a pilot. And so when he suggested flying the North American tour, I was like, are you sure, mate?
Are you 100% sure?
And like I say, in a little twin propeller plane, and off we're going to go and wobble it around. And it was a bit scary, but no, totally. He's, with aeroplanes, you can't mess around. Mm-hmm. I asked him early on, you're not going to do any stunts or anything. He's like, no, flying isn't a joke. You don't do that kind of stuff, He's very serious about his flying. And that was an interesting thing as well, because, he's got these other hobbies and he's very passionate about them. And he fills up his diary all the time. I mean, people say, how does he do this? How does he write a book and write a film and write this and also be with Maiden and also do solo albums? And also, the reason is actually he gets up a lot earlier in the morning than me. Mm-hmm. And he's constantly got something. He's got meetings all the time for someone about he's working on a podcast at the moment, and he's got meetings about this, and then he's off flying somewhere, and then he's doing a quick fencing tournament, then he's back in the evening, and
where does he get the energy? I mean,
that's it. He's a very energetic guy. He's in his 60s now, and you still see he's full of energy. He's fit. He goes jogging. He looks after himself, and it pays off.
I watched him. He had a evening with Bruce Dickinson where he was promoting his book that he wrote, and he came to Zagreb, and he told a story how he blew his Achilles tendon completely.
Right.
And then they kind of patched it up, sort of. I know football players, when they're injured with Achilles tendon, you're out for a year or two.
Yeah, yeah.
Bruce Dickinson was on his feet performing a concert after, I don't know, months. And then he said, oh, I quickly realized I cannot move forwards, but I can jump from side to side. Like, man, are you insane?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. You're injured and you're still going to do
Yeah,
it.
you're
It's
like, rest. You're in
Yeah.
your 60s.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
No, but he doesn't rest.
No, no, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people like that. You know, a lot of people who are that talented and that versatile with talents, let alone that successful.
Yeah.
So it must have been very inspiring to.
Yeah, in some ways, you know, and we're in the studio, you know, we're recording parts, and while we're recording the guitar solos, he's off in the other room with flight manuals out, studying for his next exam. And so he's doing exams while he's, you know, an adult, but still, yeah, doing tests, learning, studying, improving himself. And of course now he's proper airline pilot. And,
But he still found time to be sociable, right? To
yeah,
go
yeah.
out, and you know,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
wasn't like a monk.
No, he's not like a monk. No, absolutely not. No, he likes a drink, you know. Yeah, we'll have a laugh and a party and all that, but still, he won't get completely drunk. He'll get quite drunk and then go to bed because he's going to be up in the morning and he's going to be jogging, and then he's got his flight off here and he can't be drunk on the flight. So yeah, and then once I land in there, I've got to turn around. I've got a fencing match in there, and that's it.
It was never ending. It was never ending, really.
No.
What about the names? Do you know how many people thought that Alex Dixon? I know you wrote it in the book, but a lot of people thought that's his son. That's no, man. That's Bruce. No, it's a Scottish guy. He's a guitar player. It has nothing to do with.
Confusing coincidences with names. Like, I was the only guy in the band with my own name.
I know.
Right? Everyone else is sharing one. We've got Alex Elena on drums and Alex Dixon on guitar. Yeah, we had to call someone.
Let's explain it now.
So Alex Elena got called Sponder because it was Alessandro is Italian, Alessandro and Sponder, a bit drunk maybe, sounded funny. Okay, you're called Sponder and you're called Alex, but then it got more confusing because Sponder then calls the other Alex also Sponder, and then nobody knows who anybody is. And then
Except you three.
Oh yeah, we knew what was going on, yeah. And then of course Bruce Dickinson happened to find a guitarist called Alex Dixon. You know, just 2 letters out. What's the chances of that? But he's a great guitarist, and obviously we want him in the band. And yeah, people thought he was his son, and it didn't help because, of course, Bruce's son Austin. Also A. Dickinson, as well as A. Dixon, and he co-wrote "Laughing in the Hiding Bush," or rather, he came up with a silly phrase.
The laughing bush.
Yeah. So, yeah, came up with a silly phrase, and then he got credited on the record as like co-writing, because yeah, he did some of the lyrics, although he was a child. So you've got an A. Dickinson credited on the record, as well as a B. Dickinson, as well as an A. Dixon. You still with me?
Mind blown. Mind blown.
Could we make it more confusing for ourselves?
So quite a few interesting gigs.
Yeah.
The most notable one probably being Sarajevo, the infamous Sarajevo gig. Where do we even start? We shouldn't.
See, again, that went on from Bruce and his flexibility, and just willingness to do things and try things and do something different. And he'd said to Phil Alexander, the Kerrang editor, in an interview about the new band, he said, "I just want to do something different with this. You know, different is the key word all along." And so when Phil Alexander at Kerrang got a call from some British UN soldiers in Bosnia saying, "We want an artist to come and play a gig here," Phil Alexander was like, "That's pretty different. I think Bruce is the guy," you know. So he called the management and we ended up doing it. But again, it was the flexibility of we can literally throw our stuff in the back of a truck and get there. Because the previous idea to us was they wanted Motorhead to play. Mm-hmm. The thing is, at the time, you know, I'm not sure exactly what was going on with Motorhead, but, you know, they were on a European tour with tour bus and probably several trucks full of PA and lights. And as you probably know, the roads into Sarajevo at that point, it was...
Especially back then, you know, cities under ski, under siege.
Front lines, and it was absolute chaos, obviously. The whole country was a complete mess. And you literally couldn't take trucks through. I mean, aside from the fact you're just going to get robbed, you're going to get stopped at gunpoint, and they're going to steal your PA and sell it, you know. And the trucks just wouldn't have got through. The roads into Sarajevo that we went down, we were in a charity-owned Unimog ex-army truck. loaded in the back, Bruce Dickinson in the back of a truck overnight.
Painted yellow.
Painted yellow, painted bright yellow with cartoon characters on the side.
All I'm going to say is I'm glad you're still here with us.
Oh, there were several moments where we nearly weren't. But I mean, the idea of that is to show that it's a non-military vehicle, you know. But that was the wisdom of the moment. And we went through and we got through and we did it. And it was absolutely amazing. I mean, I must say, I'm not going to lie, it was terrifying. It was freezing cold as well, and nobody had any food, including the UN. We were on very small rations, and it wasn't fun. And you could hear gunfire in the background all through the night, and you could see the devastation in the city and the devastation with people and the way they were having to live. You know, it was really eye-opening. You know, I mean. You see these things on the news, Ukraine and stuff, and you can imagine the horror, but to actually go and see it, it's breaking. Yeah, it's horrible.
Probably life-changing.
Yeah, you can't go back to normal after that. It was crazy as shit.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be, you know, to cheer the people up and to help the people, and I believe in retrospect we kind of did that.
I would say so.
Yeah.
You know, for anybody who hasn't seen the documentary yet.
Yeah.
Scream for Me, Sarajevo. Yeah, just watch it. We should not.
I would really recommend that
much.
over I think anything I've done in my life. If you want to buy a record or something, enjoy the Skunkworks album if you like. But honestly, Scream for Me, Sarajevo is just amazing. I think, and that was amazing because it was done through a Bosnian production company who understood the story. I mean, the first production that we talked to was. Some guy who had some American funding or something, and he totally misunderstood it and thought it was some kind of heroic story. And we're like, no, you think you missed the point here. We're not heroes. We were fucking terrified. Especially as it went on. And the thing was, once we got in that little truck from Split to Sarajevo driving overnight, there's no turning back because the roads are mined.
Now you're there. You're stuck.
Yeah, and you literally can't get out of the truck and walk back through army checkpoints without any paperwork. You just wouldn't be seen again. You would just disappear, you know. It was, as you know, it's a crazy time.
Crazy time, yeah. And you left all of the equipment there, all of your food. I remember from the book, you're eating your processed chicken, and the guy comes and he probably hasn't seen that kind of food in years. This
was what we didn't appreciate, is exactly the depth of horror we were going into. They were starving, you know? Everyone really drawn cheeks and they were living on bits of UN rations and growing spring onions in the window and stuff like that. And it really brings it home to, what life's actually about when you bring it down to the real roots of it. And that wasn't our intention. We weren't going in there to learn this life lesson, but...
But you did?
We did, yeah. And now, of course, Bosnia and the Balkans in general is just like a wonderful place for me.
I'm glad you like it.
Because it's a beautiful country, and I saw it in such a terrible state. And as we were saying earlier, the food and drink's amazing. Everyone's so lovely and friendly, and it's a brilliant culture.
Well, you saw the worst of Balkans, and if you still like us,
exactly,
then you like us, But what wasn't in the documentary is your way back. From Sarajevo. That was also quite a bit, entertaining, so to say.
Yeah, I mean, while making the film, we were aware that it has to tell a story and it has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, And the beginning was the trip out there, in the middle was the concert, and the end was the people having enjoyed the concert and the way they lived and thoughts about it afterwards. But in the film, we decided not to cover the journey back because it was kind of dip in the film, and a bit too long. It was long enough anyway, But actually what happened on the way out is we were supposed to take a helicopter from Kislyak back to Split, and so we had to be driven from Sarajevo to Kislyak, which was going through Serbian lines this time. And we had a couple of UN soldiers with us in a little armoured car, not an armoured car, it was a Land Rover. And we went through the first Serbian checkpoint and showed our paperwork and passes, and then went through the second one. We got stopped and taken out, lined up on the side of the road, Chetniks with guns and stuff like that. And it's probably scary, You know what happens on the side of roads. Luckily, none of that happened. We went through the third checkpoint. We went through that one quite quickly. didn't really worry about it too much. And we got to Kislyak, and off we went home through more scary trips. The helicopter ride wasn't fun. But it was only years later when I got back in touch with one of the UN soldiers that was actually driving us out there. He told us what had happened. After he dropped us at Kislyak, he came back through the Serbian checkpoints, and they said to him, very naughty boy, don't be doing that again. You didn't stop properly. If you don't stop, we shoot you. They said, we took the safety catch off, and we were quite prepared to open fire. And as we know, they did that plenty of times to different people for different reasons, or for no reason whatsoever, sometimes it seemed. And so I was quite glad that I only found out about that one 20 years later. You know? When, thankfully, no, I do still have a heartbeat. That's all right, I'm alive. Good. But we did really come that close. And, you know, there was nothing about that whole Sarajevo trip that wasn't dangerous. Like the drive in there over these mountain tracks, you know, we could have fallen off the side of a mountain at any point. Inside the city itself, you know, we could hear shell fire and mortar rounds coming in. One of the UN soldiers told us that a mortar round landed in front of the venue. The venue itself, the Bosnian Cultural Centre, has got a big dome on the top. And I've been up in the mountains of Trebević and stuff around Sarajevo where the Serbian army were. And I've looked down and you can see this dome from miles away. It's like an open target in the middle of the city. What? That could have gone wrong at any point, you know. And yet, here we are today, alive and well, thankfully.
But when you came back from Sarajevo, you know, it must have changed you, obviously. It did. But, like, was it hard to explain to people back home what's happening, you know?
No,
Could they grasp at all
not hard.
the scale of horror happening there?
No, just impossible. Nobody understands, you know, unless they've been through it or seen it. And I tried explaining, and people didn't understand, and I found it very frustrating and difficult, you know. And I just found, like, modern life just suddenly just completely trivial.
Exactly.
Pointless, you know. Exactly. And conversations people having about TV shows they've been watching.
None of that matters anymore.
No.
And you were only there for the weekend, you know. It's a completely life-changing experience.
Yeah, you don't go back after that, you know. Yeah, weird. But I'm so glad we did it. But at the time, I would have been quite glad if we'd cancelled it.
I know. When in Split, when they told you, okay, no helicopter to Sarajevo, the voice of reason would have been, okay, let's go back home to our safety.
The UN told us not to go through, it was too dangerous. And so Bruce went, we can probably do it. Go on, give it a go. And there was this charity group, the Serious Road Trip, who said, yeah, we'll drive you through. And like you say, they're in this big yellow truck. All right. Do you know what? This plan started off, we were originally told that we fly to Split, we get a helicopter into Sarajevo, we'll do the show, and we get the helicopter out. Yeah. And which is the way when people do shows in Afghanistan or Iraq or places like that, that's what they do. They fly in and out. And also, when they do those kind of shows, they're always playing for the troops, and they're playing on an American army base for some American soldiers. And we weren't. We were playing in public for the people, in the streets. And I think that was a great thing. You know, if we'd only played for UN soldiers there, I would have thought we're kind of letting people down. You know, UN soldiers, they get time off. They can go home and watch a gig, you know. These people, you know, they had, the amazing thing was they had so many local bands. The local rock scene in Sarajevo, as we see in the film Swing from Sarajevo, was really thriving. I guess because people were just really living for the moment. It was a really intense way of living.
Go to the front, come back home, play guitar, go to the front again.
Yeah, and also, like, you know, just doing crazy drugs, getting crazy drunk, everyone fucking each other. It was because they were really living.
It might be your last day.
And literally, because we say that as a phrase, don't we? You know, oh, got to live every moment, and these people actually doing it because really, half their friends are dead, and they know. A lot of them felt that they were going to die at some point. There wasn't like a lot of hope amongst them for like, oh, this will all end soon. Especially after it had gone on for a couple of years, it was just like, we're stuck with this. No one's helping.
Yeah, like the bass player you mentioned in the book, you know, that asked you if you had any drugs on you. You know,
Actually, I don't know if it was a bass player. I still haven't found out who that guy was. I know who most of the guys were. I've pieced together bits of it, you know, because I go to Sarajevo a lot now, and I know a lot of people there. Don't know who that guy was quite.
Drugs are bad, okay?
Yeah, well, that was it. Some guy told. asked me if I had any drugs on me, any heroin, cocaine, marijuana, and I was like, oh, you don't want to do heroin, that's really dangerous. And he's like, yeah, dangerous, really, I'm a frontline fighter, you want to see danger? And he told me some of the shit that he'd been going through. And again, it makes my life seem completely trivial, you know? And I guess in that circumstance, you know, right now I'm kind of hopeful about my future, and I'm hopeful that I'm going to live another couple of decades. And so I'm probably not going to do heroin because I think that would limit my lifespan. But for those people, it really didn't make much difference.
Didn't make any difference.
Some of my friends, they're telling me they used to, some kids showed me photos of them standing on top of big rocks in the countryside and stuff like that. And what were you doing there? They go, oh, we're right in front of the Serbian front lines, and we're just standing there like this. Just for the hell of it, because fuck it. They all think they're going to die. And it was a funny daredevil game, you know, the way that kids might do semi-dangerous things, you know, these days, you know, riding your bike too fast down a hill or something like that. But in this case, no, they're standing up in front of an army in a completely open spot, knowing they can be seen. I'm just like...
It was an insane time.
Absolutely crazy.
I'm glad the city is now back to its normal state, sort of, because that siege was the longest siege in modern. Well, obviously you would know.
Yeah.
You're familiar with military history.
Yeah, the longest siege in modern military history. Yeah.
It's pieced back together, I would say. Well, I was only there. You go much more frequently to Sarajevo, even though you live much farther to Sarajevo than I do. But last time I checked, it was okay. Even though people tell me, I told you before we started shooting, it was more multicultural than it is nowadays.
Right. Yeah.
But still, it's getting better. Generally, Balkans, the relationships in between warred nationalities are better than they used to be 10, 15, 20 years ago.
The forgiveness that goes on and that people can move on, and these things happen, you know. But yeah, Sarajevo now is absolutely beautiful, you know, as is Zagreb and most of the Balkans that I've seen. And you can still see the scars of war around Sarajevo.
Oh, yeah.
That's not going to go away anytime soon, but, you know, it shouldn't be forgotten.
Exactly. Forgive but not forget.
Absolutely. Yeah, we know what happened. We don't want to do it again.
So that was probably the craziest gig you've ever done in your life, for sure, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, we thought it was crazy playing Argentina. That was great fun.
South American fans, what about them?
Absolutely insane. Maiden is, you know, massive in South America, so Bruce going over there doing solo stuff was pretty big as well. And yeah, the South American fans camp outside the hotel all night. I mean, admittedly, it doesn't get very cold at night, so okay. But, you know, you wouldn't want to do that in Norway, maybe. But, no. But literally, you can hear them singing out there at 2 a.m, singing Maiden songs to themselves. They're so dedicated. And they would... I remember this one time, we were driving out of a gig in this little bus, and this car drove up alongside us with some fans in it, and they handed the driver a piece of paper, like, out the window while they're driving along. Can you get Bruce and the band to sign this? And of course, yeah, Bruce signs it and hands it to us, and we start signing it, and the driver goes to us, by the way, hurry up, because they're on the wrong side of the road. Quick, give him a scribble, get it back, get off the fucking road, what are you doing? So, I mean, maybe everywhere we went, our fans were risking their lives to get any little bit of Bruce Dickinson, you know?
Yeah, Bruce, obviously being super popular, how did he handle all the fans? Because Iron Maiden fans tend to be quite mad.
They are quite mad. He was used to it, you know, he knew how to deal with it. He likes his privacy and doing his own thing. He doesn't want to be hassled all the time. But also, on the other hand, when there's small groups of fans, he's completely accommodating and very happy to chat to people, especially about aeroplanes, if you want. And sign stuff, and he's all that. But it's when I see fans online complaining that Bruce wouldn't sign an autograph for them, and it's because there was 50 of them hanging around outside the hotel at the same time, and he wants to go jogging. And, like, he's only got an hour and a half before maybe he's got to get on a flight or be at sound check, and actually, he literally can't stay there and sign everything for everyone.
He's got his own life as well.
You know, yeah, and it's a shame, because I think in a sense his popularity and Maiden's popularity kind of imprisons them in a way.
Of course.
You know, we're here in Zagreb, and we were in a rock bar last night having a few beers, and, you know really that Bruce couldn't go to a rock bar in Zagreb and have a few beers because someone's going to come up and ask for his autograph, and then someone else, and then someone else, and then someone else, and he's not going to have a relaxing evening, you know?
Yeah, it's just never ending.
Yeah. So I quite like my kind of level of semi-fame where I can, you'll give me the privilege of an interview and I can write a book and someone might read it. But I can also go home and be a fairly normal person and go about my day-to-day life, you know. And I think with someone like Bruce, I don't know why this particular thing occurred to me, but it occurred to me that he can't go into a sex shop. Do you know what I mean? Because if you saw Bruce Dickinson coming out of a sex shop with a big carrier bag, you'd tell all your friends, wouldn't you? And it'd go around the whole scene. Bruce Dickinson, he brought this big fucking dildo. Whereas you and I can buy as many dildos as we want, and we get away with it, I think.
Exactly. All the dildos you want.
Absolutely.
All you can eat. But yeah, you said in the book, you talked about how your relationship in between the band when you started out was really, you clicked instantly.
Yeah.
And then as the time went by, it slowly, if I say deteriorated, is it going to be too strong of a word?
No, that's right, yeah. It didn't really deteriorate too much with us and Bruce. I mean, the three of us stayed very strong through the whole thing. We were all hanging out. But the fact was that the Skunkworks album and Bruce's solo project in general wasn't selling enough to recoup its costs. Not that I was shown the day-to-day accounts, I don't actually know, but
you would say it wasn't profitable.
Yeah, and the concert attendances were getting lower. I think we were doing some great gigs, but I think the problem is that Maiden fans quite naturally like the sound of Iron Maiden, and our reference was don't sound like Iron Maiden, so therefore they're probably not going to like it. And some of them did, and some of them got it. But some of them didn't. And what's been great more recently with the Facebook group is loads of people actually like the album now that didn't like it then. And I think maybe it took a little while for it to settle in with people. And of course, you don't have that luxury because really with records and record company, you need to sell in the first 6 months. And if the record company is seeing that it's not going so well, then something's got to change. And, there's a lot of people in the Facebook group going, why didn't you do a second Skunkworks album and try again? Well, because it didn't work the first time. The fans didn't pick up on it. It was playing smaller venues to less people. It's only going to happen again if we do another album of this style. So Bruce had to do something to radically change. And obviously that involved getting rid of the Skunkworks band, going back to Roy Z and Adrian Smith. And that gave him a bit of that classic metal twin guitar sound, and it was a lot more metal, and fans started to appreciate it a bit more, you know? It's kind of, I thought, I think I was saying to you before, I mean, if he'd left Maiden and gone straight into Accident of Birth and Chemical Wedding, then maybe the fans would have gone with him. But on the other hand, that would have defeated the point of leaving Maiden. Because
exactly, it wouldn't be different. Wouldn't be different, yeah.
To experiment, he wanted difference, you know, and he tried it. And I think, you know, fair play to him. Everyone should try something new, try something outside your boundaries. And
give it a go.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's the thing about Bruce. He's a very driven guy, and he has lots of ideas for, you know, books, films, projects, business ideas, musical ideas, and he tries them all out. And they don't all work, to be fair. And some do work amazingly well. And you only really have to have a few good ideas to be very successful. And Maiden have had a few pretty good ideas, you know. Run to the Hills, that's a pretty good idea.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
So, yeah, try everything once, and if it doesn't work, well, let's try something else.
So how did you feel when Bruce told you that it's not going to work anymore? Did you feel left out? Did you understand at the time? Obviously, you do now.
Yeah.
But at the time, were you disappointed?
No, we knew it was happening. We knew it was going to happen. It wasn't like we'd fallen out personally.
Just musically.
But there was, well, not even musically, because it was just that he was getting a lot of pressure to, you need to do something. Something has to change. You need to do something different. And I think also, you know, we were all like 10 years younger than him. It was our first time around the world, and we were obviously
partying.
A little bit overexcited at times. Yeah, and we were partying and staying up late and singing Kiss songs at 4 in the morning. And, Bruce found this kind of amusing for a bit.
And then?
And after a while, it was like, guys, calm down, please. Can you concentrate and get on with things, But, I can't regret that in any way, because I think we had an amazing opportunity. And if we just played it completely by the book and were very serious people, then it would... If you're going to go on holiday, have fun. Yeah,
exactly.
And we went on the best holiday of our lives, and I have to say we had fun.
You don't sound like you have any regrets from this period.
Not really. I mean, I can pick on small things here and there, like we all can about, our best friends or our girlfriends. There's always something that actually, yeah. But generally, no. And that's what this book's about. Is like I'm trying to tell the truth and tell, some factual details of what happened, but also some hilarious, stupid stuff we got up to on the road and in the studio. There's some really funny stories because we were quite young and we were quite stupid and we
Share
got ourselves in silly scrapes and it was just always going wrong for us and we were trying to be sensible. Like we had this time in Spain where we got invited out by we played the big gig. We were opening for Halloween in the arena in town. And a local club promoter said, "Oh, Bruce and your band, do you want to come and play in my club later and jam?" And Bruce was like, "No, thanks, really." He's obviously saving his voice, being a professional. And us three are like, "Yeah, sure, yeah, let's go and do it." Promoter said, "You can have some free drinks." And we're like, "Yeah, okay then. All right.
That'll work.
For free drinks, you get kiss covers. Not a problem." Yeah, that can happen. So, we went to this guy's club, and there was a slight mix-up in translation. I don't speak Spanish, and I tried to ask for some beer maybe and some Cava. Cava's nice in Spain, and maybe some Jack Daniels. Alex Dixon likes drinking Jack Daniels. And the guy kind of misunderstood and didn't bring any beer, but he did bring a whole bunch of Cava and a whole bunch of Jack Daniels, like a case of Jack Daniels. And there's three of us and two of our crew. I got a case of Jack Daniels and a case of Cava. And I'm quite thirsty. I'm not a Jack Daniels drinker. I like a beer, and beer drinking, you can have a few before it gets too horrible.
But Jack Daniels.
Or Cava, I was drinking pints of Cava, and that's not a clever way to drink Cava, I've realised since. And so then we tried to get up on stage and play a gig for this poor club owner. And at that point, he probably regretted having hired these idiot drunks into his venue and threw us off the stage. So looking back on it, we were fully up for the laughs and fun, and Bruce was obviously having his professional limits. Now, probably back on the Number of the Beast tour, Bruce would have gone for that kind of thing
100%,
himself.
100%.
But he's a little bit older than us and a little bit wiser, and he could see trouble coming and go, "Nah, I'm not doing that one, guys. No, I'll leave that to you." But fair play to him, he put up with our messing around and constant jamming. And jamming covers in sound checks endlessly, and he put up with it all, and he was like, yeah, great guys, yeah. And I think part of him maybe kind of looked back on like us and going like, you're just like I was when I was in my 20s, just being stupid and having fun, and And so no regrets whatsoever, really.
You had to live through it.
Absolutely,
obviously.
yeah.
Exactly the same way he did, probably, right?
Yeah. And so I've seen other bands come out of situations like this where they've, had an opportunity for success and it hasn't worked out for them. And they seem to remain bitter for the rest of their lives about like, oh, I had that chance, but the record company did this, or the singer did this and messed it up for all of us, and so my life's rubbish. And no, that was just one adventure I had. It was great fun, really good. But, there's other things in life. You move on.
Do you still keep in touch with the guys?
Yeah.
I mean, you did play in 2002, I believe.
Yeah. I keep in touch with Alex Elena all the time, the drummer. We're totally good friends.
Who used to steal all your girlfriends?
No, we're good boys with each other, not messing around like that. I keep in touch with Alex Elena a lot, and he helped out with the book as well. Mm-hmm. Alex Dixon, like I say, he's
very private.
Yeah, he's very private. He's just a constant musician, constantly writing songs. I kind of lost touch with him a couple of years ago. He really is private. He lives in the wilds of Scotland, next to a castle, next to a loch, and doesn't have a mobile phone. So,
fair play to him.
Yeah, absolutely. If that's what makes him happy, but it obviously means that we're not in regular contact. And he didn't contribute much to the book. Mm-hmm. I did get him to tell us how his guitar sound was made on the album, because I thought that was really key. Come on, mate, please answer this one. So he was good there. As for Bruce, yeah, I've stayed in touch with Bruce ever since. And I think actually after this band finished, the Skunkworks band, the next couple of times we hung out, it was far more relaxed because he's not my boss anymore.
Oh, yeah, it's
and now we're just two guys who've got some funny experiences together, having a beer and having a laugh, and he's telling me about his latest project and I'm telling him about mine. And that's what happened with this book. I met up with him in the pub recently and told him I was doing the book, and he just laughed. It was like, oh, great, yeah, sounds fun, yeah, go for it. I was a little bit worried in case he'd say, oh, actually, don't do that. But he trusts me, and he knows that I'm not going to write shit about him. It's not going to, you know. And yeah, you're right, we played with him again 2002. After he'd rejoined Maiden, he had some solo gigs booked. He had a best of solo albums out, and we did festivals across Europe.
Oh, wait, was it a full band?
Yeah. It wasn't the Skunkworks band. Alex Elena was living in America at the time.
Oh, okay, so I heard another drummer.
So we got a different drummer, Robin Guy, who's a guy I was sharing a house with, so we were good friends, that was great. And we got Pete Friesen from The Almighty and Alice Cooper's band, because we wanted it to be a two-guitar thing, because we were doing Maiden covers on that, but also lots of his solo stuff, so we played stuff from Accident at Birth and Chemical Wedding and Untitled Millionaire and everything, and a couple of Skunkworks songs. And that was really good fun, again, you know, really, that was kind of, I wouldn't say more fun than Skunkworks, but it was fun in a different way because there was no, you know, pressure to have a hit single or write a great record, because we were promoting a best-of album. And it's a limited number of gigs.
Pressure's off.
Yeah, just play some heavy metal gigs, and you know there was no alternative rock theme or Seattle producer. It was like, just play heavy metal on the stage in Germany in front of a big audience. Sounds good to me.
Played Wacken, right?
Yeah, we did Wacken, we did Sweden Rock, we did Grass Pop.
You did Greece, played Flight of Icarus.
Yeah, we played Flight of Icarus in Greece, that was fun.
I watched the video, first time I've seen it, like, okay, this is it, they're gonna play Alexander the Great, and then, no, he starts singing, he says, there's another song.
This song together, this song. And we thought, well, we have to sing a song about Greece. Now, there's one song that we didn't learn, unfortunately. You know the one that goes, Alexander the Great.
Dickinson gigs, sorry, Bruce Dickinson songs.
Yeah, I agree.
Actually, legally, you know, anyone can play any songs they want. I believe there's an Iron Maiden covers band playing next door tonight.
Yeah.
Do they have the permission from
Exactly.
EMI or the publisher? No, like, you don't have to do that. You can play covers in your local pub as long as you want, you know. So no, we're allowed to play what we want, but we wanted to do, and what we wanted to do in 2002 was do things that Maiden weren't doing. Because obviously Maiden got such a massive back catalogue, they can't play all their songs every night.
Oh yeah, they weren't playing any of that. Revelations, Flight of Icarus.
So exactly,
we did.
Yeah, those Revelations, Flight of Icarus. We rehearsed Children of the Damned, but we didn't do it live in the end. We did Power Slave. None of those were in the Maiden set at the time, but funnily enough, I saw them a couple of years later, and those songs are back in the list.
All of them mentioned.
And I was like, oh, okay. I wonder if they'd watched a bit of us doing YouTube and went, actually, what are we doing? Why are we not playing Revelations? It's awesome. And it is awesome. But the fact is, Maiden have so many awesome songs. How do they condense it down into an hour and a half or 2 hours?
It's hard.
Especially when half the songs are 15 minutes long. You can only play 8 songs then, can't you?
They're getting more progressive with every single record.
Yeah, they are.
I hope they play the new album in its entirety. We'll see. Like they did with A Matter of Life and Death. That was kind of cool. That's why I think a lot of fans appreciate that. Like hardcore fans are going to say, yes, fuck it. If you want to play the whole album, just play it.
I think that is something with them. And it's not just... Because I only put this together recently, or a fan pointed it out to me. Because I thought, on the Skunkworks tour, I thought one of the problems was we were playing so much stuff off that Skunkworks album that if a fan didn't own the album, then they're just kind of lost for the show. And they're not necessarily going to go and buy it the next day because they're just like, I'd heard a load of songs I never heard before, nothing was familiar. Because we played almost the whole album. We played Tears of the Dragon and Tattooed Millionaire, but that was pretty much it, and then the whole album. But then, of course, on the Balls to Picasso tour, we played pretty much the whole Balls to Picasso album. And also on the Tattooed Millionaire tour, before we were involved, obviously played pretty much the whole Tattooed Millionaire album. And this is just what Bruce and Maiden do. And also, something that a fan pointed out to me, they always open with the opening song off the record. And that I hadn't put two and two together. I'm not such a massive Maiden fan that I'd compared set lists over the years, you know. And so, yeah, we opened with Space Race on the Skunkworks tour, and we opened with Cyclops on the Bulls to Picasso tour. And
That's how it goes.
And then on the best of, we opened with Silver Wings, which I think is the first track on the best of album. So there's a running theme. So what do you think their set list is going to be tomorrow? Or can we just work it out?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
But I think actually they're still doing Legacy, aren't they? So
They are doing Legacy, which is such a shame. The COVID messed it up.
yeah.
Altogether. I had a friend who unfortunately didn't buy a ticket. He told me, yes, and they're gonna play all of the older songs, which I'm a fan of. I like classic Iron Man. I'm like, I don't know. You're just lucky it's still Legacy of the Beast, but they're gonna include, I think, at least 2 or 3 new songs. We'll know. By the time this is out, we'll know already.
Oh, this is true.
But I would say Writing on the Wall, Hell on Earth, that's a given. I would say those 2 songs. But we'll see. We'll see what they. God knows what they're going to play. You know, legacy songs. Who knows what they're going to change?
I wouldn't have thought they'll change much.
To the previous legs.
I mean,
of the
they
tour?
could do. I might be wrong, but the fact is, like I was saying earlier, is that, you know, it's such a massive thing with Maiden. You know, all the lights are pre-programmed, all those special effects, the big wings thing coming up, and all that. If they've got all that,
I don't think they're going to change much.
you can't put the big wings up and decide to do Revelations instead. So they're kind of limited. And the thing again on those 2002 things, you know, you mentioned Flight of Icarus there. We threw it in on the spur of the moment. We'd rehearsed Flight of Icarus. Me and Bruce had a chat about what songs to play, and we decided on a rough list, quite a large list, and we just crossed some off. And Flight of Icarus and Children of the Damned and a couple of others, a Samson song, were ones that we struck off the list. But the instrumental band, us lot, we had rehearsed those songs. And then Bruce later in came in, actually, we needs to be a bit short of some of the shows, and so these ones are going. And so we never played Flight of Icarus with him. And then when we got to the show in Greece, and the fans are wanting more, and we've done the encores, I was like,
They didn't have enough.
do you know we've got Flight of Icarus? And Bruce was like, we're literally on the side of stage, and he's going, yeah, but I haven't run through it with you guys. I'm like, but you know it, I hope. We know it, we've rehearsed it. But we'd rehearsed it a few weeks before without him.
You haven't rehearsed it in a while.
Yeah, so we haven't run through it recently, but I think we should be all right.
Ridiculous wings of wax. Who ever heard of such a thing? Right. All right. This will be interesting. Right. All right.
Actually taking a bit of a risk, you know. It might have gone in the middle, thankfully.
It sounded right. It sounded good, and especially the solo. Sometimes people say with guitar solos, you know, if it's okay, it's not Alex Dixon's solo originally, but why would you play it note by note? You know, it's you know, adapt it to your own playing style and give it your touch.
You've got to give it the main themes, that melody part. But that, again, was an example of us being able to throw something in on the spur of the moment. Now, I don't know for certain, and I might be proven wrong, but I don't think Maiden can do that, because literally the lights are programmed. And the set list is written, and the laser beams have to be in the right place at the right time, and you can't just throw a curveball at the sound engineer and suddenly go, guys, there's a special surprise, we're going to do this, because the sound guy and the lighting guy would be on their desk going, what the fuck, I haven't got this program. No.
That's what people ask me, why do you go to, because sometimes I would go to 3 or 4 Maiden shows per tour. And they go, why would you do that? You know, because every concert, it's the same set list. And I go, I don't know, it's a different vibe, different energy. I feel like as if it's a different concert altogether.
Right.
And then you compare it, for example, with Metallica, which probably makes more sense to go to multiple shows because they change set list. But I have more basic, more generic stage setup. So they're they're able to do it.
And also, I'm sure they keep 70% the same, and they change 4 songs.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And even then, they will have rehearsed those songs with the lighting guy, so he's got programs for these as well, and they'll have gone through in the afternoon, like, this is the set list, and it's confirmed with everyone, the guy's got his desk programmed. Because lights these days, I mean, one of the things I hate about modern technology is moving lights. You know, I loved the old par cans, the static lights and flashing on and off, and that was great for me, and all those gigs in the 80s looked brilliant to me. And now you see this massive swoop of lights around everywhere, and you're supposed to be impressed, and it's like, guys, just play some songs, would you? You know, I just want to see you.
Keep it analog.
Yeah, you know, that's just me being old school, but
I think Springsteen does, he has rehearsed, like, ready about 100 songs. So I don't know how they go about that.
Springsteen. I know a bit of the inside from Springsteen, 'cause one of my friends was guitar teching for Tom Morello. One of my friends from my little village back in Wales happened to be Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine's guitar tech.
Yeah, they played The Ghost of Tom Joad.
Yeah, and Tom Morello was out on tour doing the Bruce Springsteen gig, and I heard, you just get thrown new songs every day of, like, you get a little memo of, oh, by the way, these might be in the set list tomorrow, and he just calls out random stuff, and it's confusing for everyone. But, you know, that is Springsteen's thing.
That's it.
What he's known
That's
for.
what he does.
And Springsteen isn't known for having a big Eddie come across the stage and have a sword fight with him. I mean, it might be worth him trying.
Maybe.
Bruce, Springsteen, if you're watching this, it's the way to go. Big monsters. Maybe he won't do it. It's a very different vibe, definitely, you know.
Okay, so the book is out. For all of you who haven't seen the documentary, please go and watch it. You can get the book on.
You get the book on Amazon. It's print to order, so you just literally go to Amazon Books, type in Inside the Skunkworks Machine, Chris Dale. Amazon's search machine isn't as good as it should be. You can't just type Inside the Skunkworks Machine for some reason.
Something's wrong with the algorithm.
There is, yeah. But anyway, type in the name of the book, put Chris Dale in there, do it in books section on Amazon. It's print to order. It gets sent out to you. It's hardback or softback. It's quite expensive, but it's quite big.
It's worth it. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much. That was great fun.